What's up, guys? I got up this morning and rode 90 miles over to this 5 mile stretch of road. And I'm really glad I did because it's just the perfectly smooth, great pavement, constant switchbacks rated at like 35 miles an hour, which means 65, 70 on a bike. And had a blast through the national forest, hardly any traffic, but I think next time I'll just take the van up there and just camp for the weekend because it is, pretty good haul to get up there. But I didn't break a sweat the whole entire time. In full riding gear in August 14th here. Every year, spring and fall, there's always that one day that I go outside. I'm outside almost all of the time. And I feel the shift, and I'm like, okay, well, it's starting to be spring or it's starting to be fall. And I felt that last week when I went outside. Some of the leaves down in my yard. Just in case you're watching from a different country, August in America is sweltering pretty well everywhere. So I got to looking around my area. The highs all the way through till September are 80 degrees. That's about 20 degrees below average. It's usually, and it was towards the end of June there, 100 to 105 degrees. And the way our summer came on, which I'll talk more about in a minute, it was just like a blast furnace. So if you want to talk weather mods, we'll do that in a second. But let's look at Las Vegas, Nevada. That's still hot, 95 to 97, but it's normally 110 plus. New York City, mid 80s. Now, that's one part of the country I've never been to, but I have seen when there's power outages in August that people croak there. Marietta, California, again, this looks, pretty hot, 90 to 95, but it's a desert, Riverside, California, 110 plus kind of place. Had a heat stroke working out there. Trust me, hot. Tulsa, Oklahoma, mid 80s. New Orleans, low to mid 80s. And, that place gets beyond hot. It's just like walking into a sauna. You can cut the air sometimes. Columbus, Ohio, low 80s and 70s in August, guys. This is the hottest time of the year for us. Richmond, Virginia, Miami, pretty much everywhere I've looked across. I didn't check the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, I guess, but considerably cooler than normal everywhere. Today felt like a nice, pleasant fall day. So this is why I documented this a few months back. Of course, we had Tonga over the weekend. I'll get some stats out in a second, but this was June 2nd, and I was saying actually it had just warmed up when I made the video, but it was very cold this spring. It even snowed enough one day that I had to stop working up on the roof in May. So we just had about 60 days of summer, and now it appears to be over. I don't know, it may warm back up in September, but if it is over, then it's kind of year without summer light. LITE. And there's so much weird stuff going on. It's hard to just blame it on Tonga. The sun's acting weird. All of they're explaining things away, saying that we're going to have a triple La Nina, which is very rare. It's 3 years in a row of La Nina. But we did have the largest volcanic eruption of our modern era that scientists were shocked that they were not prepared for that concussion wave and everything. Anyway, at first they completely downplayed this. First reports on this for a few months was that the height of this was like 60, 70,000 feet. Then they came back and revised it later, 36 miles, which is 184,000 feet. This is above the stratosphere, way up into the mesosphere, putting all those particles up there. What I haven't been able to find is a report on how much sulfur dioxide they're approximating was released, because that is evidently what's supposed to be the most reflective and cause the most cooling. But this was a VEI 6, same rating as Krakatoa, the largest one since Mount Pinatubo back in the 90s. And they say Pinatubo had a measuring cooling effect for a period of 2 years, as well as Krakatoa. cooled the oceans. And there's no question about it anywhere you look. They say, yeah, these had a cooling effect on everything. Well, okay, then why didn't this one? Why didn't Tonga? Because it's today and not in a history book. They say we're going to have a rare three-peat La Nina. Well, what is a La Nina? It's cooler ocean waters that change the weather patterns, which matches up exactly with what I just read to you about Krakatoa. But yeah, we just had 60 to 65 days of normal hot summer temperatures, and now it feels like it's fall outside. You know, it may heat back up next month, but for the rest of this month, the hottest month of the year, what I'm seeing is 20 degrees below average. The heat came late and left early. And speaking of when the heat did come, we didn't have our normal humid, nice rainy spring. It just went straight to 100 degrees, zero humidity, which is not normal for here. And this precipitation chart here, looking at how everything just went right around Texas, it does feel like we got microwaved here, and it looks like that's what's going on there. It's kind of funny how every time it rains, somebody's screaming weather mod, but then when there's a huge drought, nobody says anything. And if you think about like HAARP or anything like that, if you're exciting particles with, just for simplicity's sake, let's say a microwave beam, it's going to create heat. It's going to create a high pressure system, which means no rain. But I was watering my garden twice a day and still couldn't keep it alive. The only good thing is I didn't have to mow the yard for a month or two there. Interesting article from 2013, before every single newspaper was on the dole. I'll just let you read what it says there. And I was thinking the other day about how everything changed in the 90s, because I won't get into the political side of things, but there was a major transfer of wealth that happened with all of the telecommunication companies and cell phones that came online. And yes, younger folks, we didn't have cell phones until I was out of high school. But all of these telecommunication companies came online, and you saw it all around the world. There's Qualcomm Stadium. I mean, they went and bought up everything, including all of the media outlets. So when you go back just 10 years even, you see that there wasn't a unanimous consensus on things like there is today. And the only reason it's a unanimous consensus is because if you don't do studies that come out with the results they want, you don't get funding. It's that simple. But lest we not forget that Glacier National Park would have no snow, our kids wouldn't know what snow was by 2020. Glacier Park would have no glacier. That was just 8 or 9 years ago they were saying that. And then Schwab and everybody else got along, and they all settled on the date of 2030. It's got to happen by 2030 or we're just going to boil over. But then when somebody goes out and makes the simple observation that we have seen the most coral reef growth ever in 1 year this year, well, then all these articles are out there explaining it away, saying don't believe your lying eyes because circle back. And then, oh my goshes, Arctic sea ice 10th lowest ever recorded. Well, okay, let's talk about that real quick, because they started actually tracking this in 1981, and we've got the 10th lowest ever recorded. So that means it's higher than 30 of the years that's been recorded. So that's well above the median average there. But no. The science says that you gotta jab the ice, or it's gonna croak. It's melting the glaciers. Oh, is that a fact? Well, I seem to remember this article from last year to where the glacier had melted off some, and they found a stash of World War I artifacts in there. So tell me, 100 years ago, did they go tunneling down into the ice, or was it just a cave that was accessible 100 years ago? Because the ice fluctuates. I think Mark Twain said it best when he said there's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics. Seriously, you guys should check out Tony Heller if you're ever interested in this subject, because he shows exactly how they use specific cutoff dates to show whatever statistic they're going for. And when talking about warming, they never go all the way back to 1911, 100 years ago, because there was a major heat wave. People were literally committing suicide because it was so hot that they couldn't take it anymore. World War I started in 1918, so you do the math. The glacier was melted 100 years ago, has frozen back since then, and every one of these climate alarmists should be tried for sedition and treason, because they're trying to use this to not only overthrow this country, but every country in the world. So don't forget about those guys when we finally had enough of this. Static out.